Hey guys, Joe here. This is the Joe Madden Sports Podcast. I'm joined this afternoon by Melissa Cunningham. We're going to be talking NHL. Melissa, how's the day treating you? And welcome back to the show.
Hey, Joe, thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure to come on and chat hockey with you. It's crazy what happened last night. We're getting towards the end and to the point where we only have 1 day games for hockey and days off like we have today. So I'm kind of like throughout the day, like, what do I do? There's no hockey tonight.
I know it is a huge question mark, that is for sure. I want to give you kudos for taking the Tampa Bay Lightning in last night's game. Fantastic call by you. Were you sweating that one out? Because we looked at that first period, no goals were scored. I had the reverse puck line for the Rangers, really thought they'd come out and nail one in that first period, not able to do anything. What were your thoughts going into the second? Were you still confident in the Tampa Bay Lightning?
It was, that first period was very interesting. Tampa had two posts, and I actually did play the first period over because I saw a lot of value in that, especially with that hitting in the previous two matchups that between the two teams at Madison Square Garden. The problem with what the Rangers have been experiencing is you can kind of see the fatigue is setting in to this team finally. I do think that in the first period, you're exactly right. If they wanted to win that game, they had to get up at least 1-0 to be able to, have that momentum on their side. The second period, though, I did feel like it was heavily dominated by Tampa, just from a 5-on-5 standpoint. And I think when they finally did go up 1-0, you look at the scoring chances that Tampa had, it was almost double of what the Rangers had. So it was one of those situations where I kind of looked at it, and if I probably wasn't on Tampa already on the side, I probably would have looked to bet them live just because of the amount of scoring chances that they were getting. And you really just saw the fatigue setting in on the Rangers, and props to them for continuously surprising us all. But last night they just couldn't get it done, and I think Tampa's really showing why they're the back-to-back champs.
Yeah, they absolutely are showing it to us here. It hurt for anyone cheering for Tampa or cheering for the Rangers last night. I think the series is done. I can't see any way that the Rangers tie it up in game 6. I think Tampa advances, finishes it off in the next game. Do you give the Rangers any ability to win the next one, or do you think this is done as well?
I think it's done as well. I think the Rangers are a young team. They just need another year. This is going to be a dangerous team next year that will make their cup run again. And I think that Tampa is just showing the experience. And, that's what really matters. But it comes down to goaltending. Igor cannot keep standing on his head for his team. His team has to generate chances. The problem is they're not. They have all these top lines. They have their kid line, who's been awfully quiet since game 3. They haven't done much. And I think last night was the first goal scored on 5-on-5 since game 2 for the Rangers. You can't just continuously rely on the power play. And you saw Tampa made adjustments where they weren't making those stupid penalties anymore. Because again, they're an experienced team. They're not going to do these stupid plays and go in the box unless you're Corey Perry, but he's another story. So I think that Tampa will close this out. I think that this series might have been closed out sooner. I do think that the long rest did affect Tampa heavily. I think that they, I think they had 11 days off, and you can see that they just were not used to being back on the ice, and the Rangers did take advantage. So props to them. I think at the end of the day, any fan who's been cheering for that team has to be proud of what they accomplished and have a positive outlook on the future for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to the future for the New York Rangers there. Now, let's do the scenario that the Tampa Bay Lightning do advance here, which is more than likely facing the Colorado Avalanche, who are then coming into the situation where they have had so many days off going into the Stanley Cup Finals. Do you think we'll see the same effect on the Colorado Avalanche that we did see on the Tampa Bay Lightning coming in rusty into this one?
Yeah, it will be very interesting. I think that Tampa first period puck line might be a decent look as well to see how they respond. They did sweep Nashville, and they did come in to play against the Blues, I believe. But I think that they didn't have as long of a rest then as they they will for this series, because I think that they give us another week as well once the teams do advance. But I think Tampa will be a decent look. Obviously, the books love Colorado. They're going to be the favorite. They're going to be the team that you'll have to lay chalk on, even when they are on the road, if you think that they're going to win. So I think that there is going to be a lot of decent value on Tampa Bay. I think that we might see the series go over 6 games potentially. I'm excited to see what happens because, I think Tampa has the goaltending advantage here. So
Absolutely.
that's what you need in these playoffs is a strong goaltender. So we'll see how that plays out. But I'm excited. I think both of those two teams, it's either do you root for the team that's going to be the heavy favorite in the Avalanche, or do you root for the team to go 3 in a row? Do you want a three-peat? I think last time I was on your show, you asked me who I had winning the cup, and I did have the Avalanche. So we might have to do a couple hedge bets on Tampa throughout that series, but we'll see. I think it's going to be a fun, evenly matched up series, and we'll find out.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I hope it goes deep. I hope we go all the way to 7 for this one. Now, you mentioned it, hit the nail on the head there. Colorado's biggest disadvantage here is the goaltending. Who do you think they're going to start here between Kemper and Francouz?
Probably Kemper, I would say, unless he can't go, obviously, if he is injured. But I would imagine he's back up and running. He's been their guy from the beginning, and I think Francouz knows that he came in and he did his job, and he did it when they were in Nashville, and he's done it again here. So he's proven that if Kemper does need a break or whatnot, he can come in and still perform as well. And the thing with the Avalanche is they don't need to really rely on defense because they are scoring so heavily. So when you're throwing up 4 or 5 goals per game, you're able to say, okay, if Francouz is letting in 2 or 3, we can still win this game because we're just such a high offensive team as well. So I think you were running off those team totals overs a lot for the Avalanche and just crushing them, I believe, right?
Yeah, they were crushing nicely. The over 3.5s for the Avs coming in easy money there. But you're right. They're just so strong in that regards. But their defense is doing an incredible job at stopping those shots on goal. So it's going to be interesting to see if Tampa can work out a way to deal with that.
Yeah, it will be, and I haven't even looked yet to see regular season head to head. I think I only looked at the Rangers against the Avalanche, and I think the Avalanche swept them as well during the regular season. But I didn't even look at how Tampa performed yet because I'm waiting to see just to make sure that they are the team that is playing. But it's going to be fun. I mean, props off to Tampa though. Think about at the beginning of the playoffs, I said to myself, this team has got to have some fatigue coming in here. I mean, they've played so many games, and we kind of saw them slipping a little bit in the regular season, which they showed it's the regular season. We don't care as long as we make the playoffs. Fought the Leafs till 7, obviously swept Florida, and now they've come back after being down 2-0 and won 3 in a row, which is so hard to do. And potentially if they can win 4 in a row too, as well. So props to them. I mean, they're greatly coached. It's not like they're have so many big names. Like they have Stamkos and a couple others, but it's not like they're like heavily stacked like a team like the Oilers, which I like about them too. There's a lot of different players that you get a lot of different value on from a point standpoint per game as well. So they're a fun team.
They are a fun team. Now, Melissa, we haven't talked since the Avs swept the Oilers. What were your thoughts on the Oilers getting swept? I know I'm a Calgary fan, so I love seeing them get the sweep. It was they played their hearts out. So especially Edmonton in that very last game, they played their hearts out, almost was able to extend it. But what were your takeaways from that for Edmonton for next season?
Yeah, I think I lost a couple. I was betting Edmonton because I saw a lot of decent value on the plus money with them, and I thought they'd at least get 1 or 2 at home. Thought this series would go to 6, but so the Avalanche really surprised me. Even when they were down by 2 goals in that final game, once they tied it up, it's kind of, and then I think they took the lead, and then the Oilers tied it up, and it's going to overtime, and you're like, this is probably going to be the Avalanche winning this in overtime. But I think Edmonton should be very proud of their team. They had done some great things this season. I think there's always, ups and downs. they didn't even have a head coach. He was their interim head coach. So I think that he did a phenomenal job with stepping in for them. And I think, Draisaitl, you saw him fighting to the very end. You could tell he was really heavily injured there and wasn't giving up. And that's just, the true grit of hockey players. They never really stop. They just keep going and going and going. You don't get that in the NBA. You only get that in the
don't
NHL.
get that on the soccer field either. So.
Oh, absolutely. Those guys are always diving. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what they do in the off season there with who they will hire in regards to that. But it sounds like their fan base is pretty happy with where they finished.
Their fan base is ecstatic. They beat the Calgary Flames. So
yeah, it's very hard to impress.
Absolutely. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for joining me here today. Can't wait to have you back on. Can you tell everyone where to find and follow you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm on Twitter. You can find me at mcunningham33. And I mainly just do hockey. So all of my hockey bets are posted daily whenever we have games.
What are you going to do when this is all over, Melissa?
Oh, it's the best. I literally withdraw all of my betting accounts and I enjoy the summer.
Okay. Well, that is fantastic. Got that summer spending money. I hope it's an absolute blast, but definitely have to have you on before the Stanley Cup Finals.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Joe. It's always a pleasure having me on.
The pleasure is all mine, Melissa. Thank you so much. You guys make sure you go give Melissa Cunningham a follow. You don't want to miss out. She puts out her bets every day on Twitter. So much information. Thank you, Melissa, again.
Thanks, Joe. Have a good day.
You too.